one of the big, there's a couple of Riverdale, every couple of days that you give Kevin and
Yes, sure.
Thank you for the Daily Planet, no doubt.
You're so welcome.
Lilith.
It's hard to figure out a balance. It was because on one hand, the reality is we're not paying tribute for him. The only reason we would pay tribute is for the audience of the show. But at the same time when you're doing it, you're thinking, does it seem like we're milking it too much? Is this not natural? It's for fans of the show, I get it. They feel a loss, rightfully so, and they should. But the loss for us was very different than it was for them. They lost an actor and a character. I lost a brother, so it was a very different situation for me than it was for the audience. I lost a brother. His kids lost a father. His fiance, lost a partner. I mean, it was a lot. And it'll be something that I'm sure I have to deal with for the rest of my life. So figuring out how that works within a show is difficult. I mean, he meant so much to the show, so we wanted to honor that, but at the same time, he meant so much to us, and everyone mourns in their own way. Some people talk about it more than others. Some people post about it. Some people don't. But to each his own. I mean, that's such an individual process, mourning the loss of somebody. And how do you really deal with that on a television show? You can't. You pay homage to it, and you show respect for it in a way where you don't feel you're being disrespectful in doing it. So it's a fine line, and it's something that we, as a cast and as people, we towed that line very carefully, because it's a really fine line for us.
Definitely far beyond 90210, but it brings us back together in one sense, but we've never been apart. I mean, we always talk on the phone. We've always stayed close friends. Not just me and Jason, but me and Ian and Brian as well. The guys of the show have always had a really good, strong core group, and we continue to have it to this day.
Well, and then the public eye has changed so much. I mean, back when we did the show, there was no internet. There were no paparazzi. There was none of what exists today. There was no social media. There wasn't any of this. So the world has changed. The climate has changed. But that relationship started at a point when it hadn't changed. So it's weird to update the mourning for the climate that exists now, when the climate that existed then was, and the process and the show itself and the relationship was very different. It wasn't so psychoanalyzed, and it wasn't, there were not a lot of stories about us back then, because there were not a lot of stories about us. There weren't people chasing us around with cameras, and people weren't experiencing all of it the way we did. And a show like that wouldn't have worked, I don't think, in this climate if this existed back then. I think the fact that there was no internet back then and people were curious is why the show worked.